November is National Diabetes Month. The South Coast, no stranger to diabetes. Type 2 diabetes said to be almost an epidemic here on the South Coast. If managed properly, many folks can live long, productive lives. Type 1 diabetes, however, can be a different story. Type 1 is more aggressive, complications more serious. I would like to introduce Ken Walsh and his daughter Hannah. Hannah has type 1 diabetes, but through an organization called JDRF, Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. They're hoping someday for a cure of this terrible disease. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
What is JDRF, first off? What is that?
That's a research foundation, and they are really the leader globally for raising research money to find a cure for type 1 diabetes, also known as juvenile diabetes.
How long have you been working with them? Now, you're a volunteer. You don't get a paycheck or anything. You're here strictly representing them as a volunteer. How long have you been affiliated with them?
Really ever since Hannah has had diabetes, which she was diagnosed at just 11 months old in 2008, and so we got involved shortly after.
Hannah is living with type 1 diabetes, and Hannah, first of all, welcome. Tell us about what school do you go to?
I go to Betsy B. Winslow.
Okay, we know that school. It's a great place in New Bedford. And tell us a little bit about what you like, or what things you do.
Like, I make bath bombs. I have a business. I do gymnastics.
All right, so you have an active life, and you're going to school pretty much every day.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Tell us about her illness, Ken. What has it meant for you and your family with her illness, which I'm sure requires a great deal of monitoring? Tell us about that.
Yeah, pretty much a life changer. She was only 11 months at the time when she was diagnosed, and so life had to kind of stop for a little while, as you're really responsible for keeping her alive. Over the years, as she gets older and more independent, she's able to take care of herself more. And the fact that she has an insulin pump is really helpful, and that kind of acts as a pancreas somewhat and really helps to give her insulin in moderate times during the day and when she's eating and things like that. But it really is a pretty daily monitoring, at different points in the day or when she feels like, her blood sugar's low.
What special things have to happen during her day for her to remain active and keep going?
Well, she has to do like a finger prick to check her blood glucose levels anywhere from like 6 to 10 times a day. And then depending on what that number comes in, a good range is like, for her age, is really 80 to 150. So if it's below that or she's feeling lower, she has to have some sugar, some carbohydrates. If she's higher than that, then she needs insulin, which is administered through the pump.
All right. There was recently a walk in New Bedford sponsored by JDRF to raise money for diabetes research. How was that event? And I guess, Hannah, you raised a little money for that, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How much?
$1,500.
Wow, that's quite an amount. So, Dad, you take part in a lot of these events with her?
Yeah, I actually wasn't at that particular walk. I had a prior engagement, but we had a team of about 15 people, and it was Team BeYOUtiful, named after her bath bomb business. And it was pouring rain, but everybody came out in full support and participated in the walk and raised quite a bit of money. $1,500 was really just her team's contribution, but quite a bit of money was raised for diabetes research through that walk.
All right, now you mentioned her business, so we want to talk about that. Hannah, what's the name of your business?
Hannah Grace BeYOUtiful.
And how long have you been doing that?
Since New Year's Eve.
Uh-huh. So what it's selling what?
Bath bombs.
Tell me how it works, Ken.
Well, back on New Year's Eve at the end of last year, we were heading over to a store that sells these bath bombs, which is like kind of just a relaxing luxury bath item that you put into the bath. And I just turned to her and kind of challenged her and said, that I bet that she's really resourceful and innovative, and she does a lot of DIY. And so I told her, I said, I bet you could make and sell these yourself. And so she pretty much took that as a challenge, and within a few weeks was making them and selling them. And you know, some months later, she's got a website, and she sells them in quite a few boutiques and salons in the area.
Wow. So you've got a thriving business here, Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
And you're raising money for JDRF. That's a great thing. Are there any upcoming events that we can look forward to? You may not be aware of any.
Well, every spring, JDRF holds a gala in Boston, and that's probably their pinnacle fundraiser for the year. And there are various walks, not just in New Bedford, but there are walks in Boston and just various places in New England. So there are always things happening that pop up from time to time.
Are you confident that a cure can be found? What's the latest you've heard from JDRF, the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation? This money that you're raising, and a lot of other people contribute, I'm sure, is going towards research for diabetes and type 1 diabetes. So what are you hearing about the process, and are you hopeful?
Yeah, very hopeful. You know, every day it seems like they're making different breakthroughs, and technology is a huge part of that, because even the newest insulin pumps really make it so that, you know, pretty soon, and even some people now don't even have to give themselves a finger prick to check their blood glucose. You know, the devices that they have really act as a pancreas and are able to administer insulin without even really thinking about it. And so we do believe that there will be a cure in short time, because the advances just in the last 10 years have been incredible.
How can the general public really help in this effort? Until I booked this interview through JDRF and with you folks, I didn't ever really know JDRF. It wasn't something that I had been aware of. So what can the general public do to help in this effort?
If you were to go to jdrf.org, you could find out everything that's going on. And they have regional chapters, and so we're really more affiliated with JDRF New England, specifically Southern New England. And there's always events happening, you know, fundraising events. And there's also a lot of great events for families that are newly diagnosed, because it really is a life changer. And if you don't have support or a support system and resources, you really feel lost. And so we actually act as coaches in the area, and when there's new families in the area that have a diagnosis, we can reach out to them with resources and kind of provide a support system for them. But JDRF.org is really the place to start, and you can find out how to be a fundraiser, partake in fundraisers, and just see all the different events that are happening.
And it is a life-changing event, as you mentioned here a couple of times. To get a diagnosis like that with a young child, a newborn child or a young child, and you do feel lost. I mean, I can tell you from personal experience, you are lost. You just kind of don't know where to turn, even though there may be many organizations and agencies and nonprofits available. You are lost, at least in those early moments, and I'm sure you felt that. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, Hannah really almost passed away in the hospital. That's how critical she was. And being a toddler, almost an infant, we really didn't know what was happening with her. So when you get that diagnosis, it's just a shocker. And, immediately my wife had to resign from her position at work and really just be dedicated to taking care of her 24/7, because that's what it takes, especially for a small child.
Right. Over the years, has it gotten easier?
Absolutely. Hannah doesn't know really any other way, so she is very, very independent and very responsible with her care, and she recognizes the symptoms, that her body's feeling, and she really is, she can take care of herself pretty well. She did a day camp this year, all week long without nurse care, without us being there, and she did fantastic, just being able to check in with a cell phone.
Well, I would say she is doing pretty well. Going to school, gymnastics, you mentioned?
Yeah.
And you have a business. That's not bad. That's not bad, Hannah. What would you like to do, Hannah, when you get a little older? Any thought about that?
Not really.
Well, living day to day isn't a bad thing either, being able to get up and know what's going to happen that day, that's a pretty good feeling as well. Ken, in terms of your hopes for her, day to day, or do you have any long range kind of hopes?
I'm not worried. I'll say that. Day to day, you know, she does pretty well. You know, she's very, very well managed, and which is, you know, kind of a group effort by, you know, her mom and I, and then herself and her brother. You know, we all contribute to that. But she definitely has a tenacity and a resolve to beat this thing and thrive in life, and that's something we've always known about her from very small, that, you know, she has got a great God-given tenacity just to overcome and to get what she wants, and we have no doubt that she's going to be very successful in her business and just in life in general, and health-wise, of course, too.
Ken, we know that type 2 diabetes is in many cases hereditary. It's kind of goes in your family, and if your mother or your father had it, you may have symptoms, and you may in fact be a diabetic. Type 1, same kind of thing, or is it different?
Well, I think they do say that definitely there is some you know, hereditary aspects of it. With us, we were just really caught by surprise because we don't really know anybody in the family that has it. And the type 2 and the type 1 really don't have that relationship where you might have a family member that has type 2, but type 1 is really its own diagnosis and doesn't have that connection. So it's kind of a mystery, and that's some of this research that's going to is really trying to find the link to how this thing even, you know, becomes present in people, specifically younger people.
So Hannah has raised, like the team Hannah at the walk, raised about $1,500, and she's making gifts all the time through her business. She raised $10,000 for JDRF, or not quite that much?
Not quite that much, and she does spread the giving around. I don't know, Hannah, you want to say some of the other things you've given to?
I donated money for freshwater well in India. I donated to JDRF, the American Diabetes Association, and the Skyla Romano Fund.
Okay. So not only do you raise money, you spread it around. That's a great thing, Hannah. Your parents and your friends and your teachers should be very proud of you for going through this and finding ways to make it work. Keep going. That's very, very important. Ken, it really is a remarkable story because you guys didn't quit, and some people may have quit. So you guys didn't quit. Your family didn't stop, and I'm sure her extended family as well is pretty much involved in her life too. I hope so. Yeah,
and those are some of the participants and the donors for the walk. You know, our extended family, which is really helpful.
Well, my thanks to Ken Walsh of New Bedford and his daughter Hannah, who is living with type 1 diabetes. Thank you for coming in, spreading the word, and coming a little closer to a cure for type 1 diabetes, I think, by doing that. Thank you very much. You've been listening to Townsquare Sunday, heard every Sunday morning at this time on 1420 WBSM. My thanks to WBSM Production Director Jason Ken and Digital Editor Casey Sylvia. The segments, of course, will be posted on our website, WBSM.com. I'm Jim Phillips. Have a wonderful week and a great Sunday.